everyone, this is Maya Santana Pilar and I am the host of the Canadian Pageant Network. Today I'd like to talk to you about a very important topic, and it's called pageant contracts, because that's very important for every Canadian pageant queen or even international pageant queens in general. So pageant contracts are presented to the winners of the title holders, whoever wins the pageant, or it is presented to a girl who will be appointed or is assigned a national title. So let's talk about being assigned a title. So what do we call what we say appointed title holders? So appointed title holders are actually a girl that is presented a title to, especially if they needed a Canadian representative or a representative from a country to go and represent that country to an international pageant. It could also apply to a title holder that did not go through a regional pageant and will be representing a state or a province or a city or a region to a national pageant. That's what you call an appointed title holder. But I'm talking more on the national side, okay? So when a girl competes internationally, she's given a title because there was nobody that she competed against with. Or when there's a new pageant or international pageant and needed a representative from that country, that girl, they make a selection and they select a girl through applications, and then present that girl, whoever they chose, and select that a girl to represent the country to an international pageant. So when an appointed title holder is going to represent a country to an international or world stage, she is also presented a contract, and mostly because of the fact that she will be competing, representing the country, representing the organization that will be sending that girl to the international pageant. Obviously there will be rules that needs to be followed, and with that it's saying it's not as demanding as a contract that is given to a winner of a national pageant. So mostly that girl should it would say you're given a title. This, for example, you'll be representing, let's say, Canada to Miss Environmental International. So your title will be Miss Environmental Canada or Miss Environmental International Canada, and that is your appointed title. And it will say that this is assigned to you and is given to you from the date that you signed the contract until the next representative of that country will be chosen. So you have that title for a year or 18 months, even to 24 months. It depends on what organization. And with that, it will state that you are responsible for, usually if you're an appointed title holder, you are responsible for your own flight, your own expenses when you go internationally, which includes your wardrobe, or you're responsible even for your own or for the entrance fee going to that international pageant. So with that saying, it will also say that you have to represent your country in your best abilities. You have to represent it with good behavior, and that you have to also be very smart about your social media, photos, all those kind of stuff. Most of the things that we'll have in the national contract from a pageant winner will apply also to an appointed title holder. So the only difference is that that girl was not given the title because she won. She was given that title because they needed a girl to represent the organization. And mostly a lot of modeling agencies or national directors that just picks a girl through Facebook or through any social media would do this. So the benefits of being an appointed title holder is that for sure you're guaranteed to have that title and represent that title for a year to 2 years. But the consequences in that title is that because you're appointed, you might not have proper support from your national director, which is, it could be financially or even the support that every girl needs before she competes, which is training. And basically you are on your own when you are appointed. So that's the difference of an appointed title holder. So now let's talk about a contract that is given to the winners of a national pageant. Okay, so there's different types of contract, and that is usually given to the flagship title holder, which is the main queen. And then some pageants have minor national queens. So these are the ones that are secondary from the main queen, but they're all queens. And then a princess or a runner-up. So let's talk about the national queens. So at Miss Canada Globe Productions, we have, in each category, we have a Miss Canada Globe, Miss Teen Canada Globe, Miss Canada Petite, Miss Teen Canada Petite. So these four are actually flagship title holders because they're the main four queens of MCGP. And then there's the minor national queens, which are, like example, for the Miss Canada Globe, there's the Miss Canadian Tourism International, which that queen will be representing Canada at Miss Tourism International. And then followed up by Miss Canadian Multinational, which goes to Miss Multinational. For Miss Canada Petite, there's the Miss Canada Petite, and then there's the Miss Canadian Petite International, and then the Miss Canadian Petite Mesoamerica. Then for Miss Canada or Miss Teen Canada Globe, there is the Miss Teen Canada Globe, then the Miss Teen Canadian International, which goes to Miss Teen International, and then the Miss Teen Canadian Mesoamerica, which goes to Miss Teen Mesoamerica. And then for Miss Teen Canada Petite, then there's the Miss Teen Canada Petite, then the Miss Teen Canadian Petite International that goes to Miss Teen Petite International, and then Miss Teen Canadian Petite Mesoamerica, which goes to Miss Teen Petite Mesoamerica. So all of these are national queens, but there's the flagship queens and the minor national queens. And then there's the princess. So it could be first and second princess for each category. And then also it could also be first or second runner-up. It depends on what each pageant carries. And I'm going to talk to you about the queens. So as I mentioned, like MCGP, where there's different categories, But some other pageants have a sole pageant, which chooses the main winner and then the runner-ups. Okay, so what I can say is that a lot of pageants nowadays mostly are actually gearing towards crowning more flagship queens and then the minor queens. For example, in the Miss Binibining Pilipinas, there is there's no flagship queens, but they have major queens, but one is based on hierarchy. So Binibining Pilipinas or Miss Philippines International, which goes to Miss International, so that's the highest ranking queen. They used to have Miss Universe as a franchise, but because Miss Universe Philippines is now the national pageant for Miss Universe in the Philippines, it's a sole pageant now. And then they have Miss Philippines Globe, Miss Philippines Intercontinental, Miss Philippines Supranational, Miss Philippines Grand International, and then they have the first and second runner-up. But you have pageants who focuses just on the main winner. Okay, so that will be another topic entirely, but we will talk about the queens and the contract. So queens and princesses, what's their contract and how does it differ for a queen and for a princess? So let's start off first with the queens. So for a flagship queen, it talks about the name, their title that they have won, and then their time of reign, which is from the time they've signed a contract until the next winner is chosen. And that goes on with also the minor national queens and as well as the princesses or the runner-ups. And then the queens will also say what where they were crowned and what is an expectation for them. So, and that also says also with the princess or runner-up contracts. So with the queen contract and the minor queen contracts, it also explains there what they get as a winner. So with the main queens or main queen or flagship queen, they usually get a cash prize, and the cash prize can be defined to two different things because now pageants are getting more modernized and it changes every year. So winners usually from in past years, they actually have to stop whatever they were doing. So if they were in school or if they're working, they have to stop that until they have their contract finished or completed by their pageant. So for example, before in our pageant MCGP, the winner has to live with a director and have that full year or 2 years that they have to be living with the director and fulfilling their responsibilities, doing first and foremost international competition, represent the country in an international pageant, or if they're not a pageant that focuses on going to an international pageant, then they basically just have to do a lot of appearances. It also says how much appearances they have to do and what are the appearances that are qualified to do an appearance. So it could say a lot of charitable work or public speaking in a school or community. It could also be doing a lot of community work. So fundraisers for different charitable institutions or nonprofit organizations, as well as sports teams, charity sports teams. They could also do appearances on doing store openings, restaurant openings, boutiques, anything like that. It depends on the actual pageant and what their focus for what their queens need to do. Okay, so with that saying, it also states there what they can't do. So they cannot use very seductive or naked pictures, or they cannot be part of any anything that will include pornography or posing nude for a magazine or for photographers. But if you did this in the past and the pageant is very accommodating, as long as you have given your honesty to the directors and state, this was what I've done before, and I promise not to do that while I'm reigning, then that's completely fine. But there are some pageants that are really strict on those rules. Another thing is it cannot be involved in any obscene behavior. So if you were in a nightclub and you were swearing, that's a grounds for trouble, for disciplinary action that could lead to even dethronement, or if you were involved in a criminal activity. Okay, and it's the same thing for runner-ups or princesses, because some pageants, they have their princesses or runner-ups compete also in minor pageants, but some pageants don't do that. So again, it differs. It also explains there that they have met the requirements that is given by the pageant organization, which means they have never been married. And I'm going to explain to you why a title holder of a Miss or MISS or a Teen, TEEN pageant cannot be married and have kids while they're reigning. It's because it's a full-time job, and most of this is because of the requirement of the international pageant, which they cannot have women who are married or have children because they travel throughout the world doing a lot of appearances. It's a full-time job, mostly 365 days in a year. And if you are married and you have children, you are not actually able to fulfill those responsibilities representing a brand, and doing a lot of traveling and doing a lot of public speaking, spokesperson. Even in the US, a lot of the title holders are also traveling to visit armed forces bases throughout the world of the United States or USO. So with that saying, it's a very competitive and very demanding position, which a single mom or a married lady could not do if she competes and win a Miss or a Miss Teen pageant. And why can you not have a criminal record when you win a Miss or a Miss Teen pageant? It's because of the fact that when you are a winner and you have to compete internationally, there's some countries that do not allow someone who is visiting their country that has a criminal background. And that goes in with United States of America. A lot of the girls who goes to different countries, even to the States, if they even have a criminal record, they barred them to go into their country. And with that saying itself, it's like a big issue, and it could be disappointing for both sides, for the international pageant and the national pageant, because they're expecting a girl who will go to their pageant, and in the end, because that girl was not able to enter the country because of that situation, then they end up having to the national pageant have to appoint a girl, or have the first princess or the next person in line go and compete. So I hope you guys understand that. And we actually got attacked by a lot of people because of the fact that, like, why they cannot, why a single mother, or why a girl who had kids, or who had been married or divorced or had a criminal record, cannot win those pageants. But remind you, there is a Mrs. pageant, and actually Miss Canada Globe also has a Ms. category that allows women who are married or single moms or divorced, and even transgendered. They allow transgendered women, they allow it now. So the spectrum of the Ms. MS category and the Mrs. category is getting big, because of the fact that number one, the contract of a Mrs. or Miss MS title holder are less demanding than an MISS title holder or a Miss Teen title holder. So I hope that educates you about that. It also explains in the Queen's contract that they have to abide by the rules of the pageant or the national pageant, which, number one, they cannot just do appearances or do photos for people without, or for other photographers, without asking permission from the National Pageant Office. That's a big no-no. It's showing a lot of disrespect because of the fact that you are using the title for your own benefit and not actually asking permission from the National Pageant Office. It also explains the standard of your title and what you must maintain while you're reigning. So a lot of pageants specifically state to the title holder that they must have the same look, or the pageant can change their look to make it more presentable, make it more competitive, even for international pageants. And it also explains there that a title holder must be in a fit and healthy condition when they compete internationally. So that being said, that's another topic that I will discuss with you, which is swimsuit competition, but I'll discuss that on a further blog. And with that saying as well, what will happen if you break any rules that is given to you by the pageant organization, or if you're not actually doing your job as a pageant queen. So people have to understand that when you're a title holder, when you're actually competing for a national title, it's a job interview. It's not just a competition, because of the fact that the pageants give out cash prizes. It gives out prizes as well. And with that, you get that when you fulfill your contract. So with that saying, when you're fulfilling a contract, you have to do a job and complete the job requirements that is in that contract, that you could say, I fulfilled my contract as a queen. Now, with the princesses, their contract is very different, because it's less demanding than an actual queen, because some of the princesses don't get a cash prize, or runner-up don't get a cash prize. Some do, but mostly they are happening in pageant countries like Philippines and United States, and Latin countries. So with that being said, they have cash prizes, but in Canada that doesn't happen. So usually they get the title. That's the main important thing, is that they become a princess or a runner-up, and that they are playing an important position, because if the main queens do not fulfill their responsibilities, they have to take over the title. Okay, so with that being said, it's the same rules as that you cannot be married, you cannot have any kids, or you cannot have a criminal record, because for the fact that if you have to take over the title, then you have to compete internationally. It also says there that that you being a runner-up or a princess must take the position when you are about to take over someone's title. Okay? And again, if they're not competing internationally, they basically are the ones there to assist the pageant and be ready just in case if something happens. And if it doesn't, they still required to do appearances. So I'm talking about the types of pageants and focus. So types of pageants. A lot of pageants nowadays are geared to different focuses. So let's say Miss Canada Globe, its main focus is first for the queens to compete and represent Canada internationally, and then do the humanitarian aspect of the pageant, which is appearances, doing charitable work. Miss Universe also, the winner of Miss Universe goes to different countries in the world and help out with different charitable events. Same thing as other title holders internationally. But national pageants, there are some pageants that are actually just mainly scholarship, which just have the winner where she becomes an ambassador and stays in the country, doing a lot of work, speaking in different schools, or visiting the armed forces, or even going to community centers, youth-inspired community events that they speak about being a role model. So, and then you have pageants that are basically based on just a modeling competition, where they're looking for a model to represent Canada internationally, like Supermodel of the World, Supermodel International, those kind of pageants. It's called the modeling pageants or modeling competitions. And then you have the online pageants, which it's based on people voting, and the winner with the highest votes, and it costs money to basically vote, because that's where the pageant makes money. They become winner of an online pageant, and there's a lot of that in the United States. There's also some in Canada. So, and then there's the other pageants that it's just a festival of pageant, where it happens in one night, they crown the winner, and they come back and crown the winner for the following year. Not a lot of demands on that, because they don't go internationally, and it's up to the title holder to use the title wisely to promote herself. And hi, so why contracts are very important and to complete it? Because that's the only way you can get whatever prize is promised to you for winning that title. So a lot of pageants, a lot of girls think that, oh, if they are dethroned, they're still entitled with the prize or cash prize that are given to them, or even if they resign, that they're still entitled for that. Ladies, you are completely wrong, because in the contract it actually explains there that you must complete your contract. What do you mean by complete? That you've done and completed everything that's required in that contract to actually get your cash prize. So nowadays, in the old days, what they do is the winner usually gets, after 6 months, half of the cash prize, and then at the end gets, once they fulfill their contract, not when they pass the crown, but once they fulfilled their contract, they get the remaining cash prize. But nowadays, the pageants have changed that. I'm talking about pageants that still gives cash prizes, because a lot of pageants nowadays don't do that. And most of the pageants nowadays have done called performance-based cash prize. So at the end of your reign, or at the end of your contract, when you fulfill your contract, that's what, based on your performance, will determine how much you will get as a cash prize. So a lot of pageants nowadays do that. And if you're a bad queen and you've given a headache to the organization, you might get a less cash prize, or not even. But if you have been dethroned or you've resigned, then you don't deserve any of the prizes that is promised by the pageant when you were crowned as a queen. And that specifically is stated in the contract. So it's important, ladies, that you complete your contract. But the most important thing, before you even sign the contract, is remember to read every single thing in that contract. And by law, the pageants, if you are the winner, they have to give you 5 days to bring the crown, or to bring the contract. Pageants do not actually give you the crown and sash. Yes, they're presented to you and you're crowned on that on stage, but I know for a fact, Binibining Pilipinas, they don't even give their title holders crowns and sash. They pick it up when they have to do appearances in the office. But with MCGP, we give out the contracts first until they're signed, and then once the girl signs the contract, then we give them the crown and sash. So you have 5 days to review the contract. Review it, because it's into your advantage, so that you can completely understand. Because at the end, you cannot say, oh, I did not understand the contract, because if it goes to court, that itself will be your loss. Because also, we always say to the girls, you have 5 days to bring home the contract, review it with a lawyer. So the pageant will not provide you a lawyer, okay? There are some circumstances that they might, but remember, the contracts that they give you, it is reviewed and created by the lawyer before they actually present that to the winners. If there's any changes, the organizers or directors go through that with the lawyer to see if that change is valid or if it's needed. So with that being said, you have 5 days to bring home the contract, review it with a lawyer, that's your choice, and get a legal advice. so that at the end there will be no drama between the title holder and the organization, because usually this happens when a girl gets dethroned or resigned, and we will have a topic about that. I'll do a separate video on that. Okay. Another thing I would like to talk about, why it's important to review your contract. It's also for you ladies, so that you are aware what you need to do to get your contract fulfilled. Okay, what you need to do, what you need to accomplish. It also says there what you're getting. So it's very important that you know what prizes are you getting, because you deserve that if you've completed the contract. It also shows there what you need to follow. It's very important that you understand the contract so that you'll not be in trouble because you did not know or you didn't understand. And a lot of girls get into trouble with contracts because of that, because they get so excited about winning a title, and they briefly read it, but they don't fully understand that. And that's why it's so important that you ladies out there read it, so that you know what you can do and what you can't do. Let's talk about social media. So ladies, when you're a title holder, you signed an agreement in the pageant. It's called confidentiality part in the contract. And you, as a winner or as a national title holder, whether you resigned or whether you get dethroned, you are still abide by that contract. And you're not allowed to actually discuss your contract to other people, especially in social media. Why? Because of the confidentiality agreement. And a lot of people who have been dethroned or have resigned, they go by, they talk about the contract because out of anger or out of emotional aspect of being dethroned or resigning. And that's not for you to do. You are not in liberation or at liberty to actually do that, especially in the contract when it states confidentiality agreement. Okay, so if you are doing that, ladies, you will be in big trouble, and you can be fined for discussing a contract to people, especially in social media. So the next thing I would like to talk to you about is reference, because a lot of contracts have sections A, B, C, D, and that's the legal jargon that is used in the contracts for people to understand different categories of what is instilled in the contract. So my suggestion to you again is, before you sign the contract, and if you don't have a legal understanding of a contract, go to a lawyer. That's the most important thing that you need to do. Ask for legal advice, because that's for your benefit. Okay? And as well as your parents. If your parents are aware, or if you have someone that is knowledgeable about contracts, they're usually business people. So if they are business administration graduate, they're running their own companies or businesses, that is good as well. And parents, because don't just go to a parent or a friend and have them review the contract if they don't understand themselves about the contract. Because at the end, if you did not understand the contract and you get into trouble, or there's issues that happen, you're not going to be able to defend yourself, especially if you are the ones at fault. Okay, so again, it's okay to go to family members, friends who are of a legal background, who has a law degree, not law students, because they won't really understand the contract if they if they're not specialized on business law, okay, or corporate law. It's so important that you go through people that really understands the law and contracts. So go to someone that knows the law and the contract very well. Okay, don't go to a police, because again, police, they specialize on criminal law. They're not specialized on civil matters. So again, that's a complete different kind of sector of the law. Okay, again, go to a paralegal if you need to, that specializes on corporate laws or corporate contracts, or an entertainment lawyer as well is good, but entertainment lawyers charge more than business or corporate lawyers. Okay, so that's basically it for our vlog for today. I'd like to thank first and foremost my Strato Fashions for providing my outfit, and also I'd like to thank Viva Jewelry for my wonderful pearls and custom made jewelry. So thank you again for joining us. Please like, share, and subscribe so that you can get updates of any new vlogs that we do here at Canadian Pageant Network. Have yourself a wonderful day. Bye.